Breaking wildfire news, Highway 97 shut down in both directions between Peachland and Summerland today as crews battle a wildfire. That highway has just reopened, but not for long. Good evening and thanks for joining us. Chris is off tonight. Lightning strikes across the BC interior, starting dozens of new wildfires overnight. The hot, dry weather creating ideal conditions for fires and a challenging situation for crews. Catherine Urquhart now with more on where the firefight is being waged.
Yet another bucket of water is scooped from Okanagan Lake by helicopter as crews battle approximately 36 new wildfires, most caused by lightning. One of them in Peachland, not far from some homes.
A little nervous. We just live a couple blocks away, and I got family out right now, and I think we're going to be hooking up our trailer and see what happens. Might have to get out of here. I don't know.
The fires were sparked Tuesday night when more than 400 lightning strikes were recorded in the central Okanagan. This video was taken by a global viewer in Vernon, where residents used garden hoses to douse a hedge caused by one of the strikes. The flames especially frightening for this fire survivor.
Everybody on the street kind of went into action because we didn't want the fire to spread. So we grabbed garden hoses, attached garden hoses to garden hoses, and started fighting the fire.
In Armstrong, a blaze was sparked less than a kilometer from some homes, but never prompted an evacuation.
Our main concern was the wind was swirling around.
Late this afternoon, fire forced the closure of Highway 97 between Summerland and Peachland.
A little worried. We've had a few scares in the past.
It opened a few hours later, but will close again at 8 p.m., with no word on when it might reopen. Fire crews now battling approximately 118 wildfires around the province. Catherine Urquhart, Global News.
Now, a state of emergency declared in Peachland and Summerland due to the growing Mount Anais wildfire. That fire doubling in size overnight and is one of 7 fires of note burning in the region. Lightning kicking the wildfire season into high gear Tuesday night, triggering highway closures, evacuation orders, as well as alerts. Lynn Collier now with where the firefight is being ramped up and why for some, this is deja vu.
Holy! It's cresting the mountain.
A view of the biggest wildfire in BC right now, Mount Anais, moving west 2 kilometers overnight. Sparked by lightning, it has burned 500 hectares and is out of control.
Well, that lightning storm that went through 2 nights ago created just in the Okanagan vicinity in the valley about 12 new starts.
The Mount Anais fire breached Highway 97 between Peachland and Summerland, closing the road briefly. Single-lane alternating traffic is being allowed now. Some people are waiting for hours, but taking it in stride.
Fires are fires. It's the new normal now.
Yeah, usually we leave at this time to escape the fire, but we're coming home to the fire this time of year, so.
Not very convenient, but these guys down here have a lot more to worry about than us waiting.
The Mount Conkle fire outside Summerland is at 80 hectares and growing. The Penticton Indian Band has declared a state of emergency. Several residents have been evacuated. 40 firefighters are trying to control this fire.
It is incredibly hot out there. The terrain is incredibly difficult, and especially on this fires, the crews have made tremendous progress, and I think everyone is happy with where this fire is at the moment.
The Good Creek fire in Okanagan Mountain Park is the 3rd out-of-control fire in this region. It's grown to 400 hectares, and for many who live here, this brings back memories of the wildfire that burned almost 26,000 hectares and more than 200 homes in 2003. The Okanagan is the main focus for firefighting resources in the province right now. 14 helicopters, 80 firefighters, along with air tankers and skimmers, are trying to gain the upper hand on these 3 out-of-control fires. More help may be brought in this weekend. Lynn Collier, Global News.
Yeah, exhausting for crews there. Rumina Daya is live in Summerland tonight. We see Highway 97 closed right now and a state of emergency where you are, Rumina.
Sophie, you know what? It's incredible how quickly things can change out here. Visibility right now is extremely poor. The smoke is burning your eyes, and that's just happened over the last 20 minutes. As you mentioned, Highway 97 now closed again from Summerland all the way north to Antler Beach, which is just outside of Peachland. RCMP say it could be several hours before any of these vehicles get moving because the fire is moving just dangerously too close to the highway. Now, new evacuation orders are also in effect for Summerland. We're hearing that at least 40 homes have been evacuated, meaning people have had to leave because, again, the fire is just too dangerously close to their properties. Now, the municipality is under a local state of emergency. And Sophie, fire crews are truly at the mercy of the weather right now. Their biggest concern is the wind. Back to you.
Richard, some incredible pictures of the smoke in that region there. We complain about it here in the Lower Mainland, but it really is impacting fighting the fires in a couple of ways up there.
Yeah, two reasons, Chris. First, the smoke is having an effect on the aircraft that can actually get up and fight those fires. Second, the province is having a hard time measuring actually how big those fires are because of the amount of smoke. As for what comes next, we're expecting a lot of the same in the weather, which is not great news, although they are expecting the temperature to drop just a little bit, which could provide some sort of relief for people here, Chris.
All right, Richard, wishing the best for those folks in Quesnel. Thank you very much for that report. And to Grand Forks now, devastated by flooding just 3 months ago and now dealing with its own wildfire fears. An evacuation alert is in effect for nearly 24 properties as the Toronto Creek wildfire burns just a few kilometers north of the downtown area. Ground crews using heavy equipment are aided by air support, but those on alert have their precious possessions packed and are ready to go if needed.
It's kind of scary. Luckily, our farm doesn't have many trees surrounding our house or our fields, so we're pretty safe, but a lot of other people in the area might actually be at risk, so it's kind of scary.
So, province-wide state of emergency is now in effect in response to the wildfires burning across the province. Nearly 600 wildfires in all are burning in BC, affecting thousands of people. The RCMP also now being deployed to assist with the fallout around the province. And those fires are also creating all kinds of air quality concerns. The smoky haze is thick in many regions. Richard Zussman is live in Fort St. James tonight near the largest fire burning right now. That's the Shovel Lake fire. Richard, what's the latest where you are?
The prevailing sense here, Chris, is that people here feel like they have been forgotten. They're watching this fire get closer. The fire itself, more than 50,000 hectares. Some sense of relief today that the province has declared that provincial state of emergency, but still a lot of concern.
It's cedar siding, you know, obviously very flammable. They have the sprinklers on the top of our roof.
For Miranda Louie, it has become the new normal. The Nadley-Watan First Nation under evacuation order, but people are still staying back to help. They are frustrated there hasn't been more support.
We knew we needed to stand ground for our own community. We knew we wouldn't always get updates from MOF. We weren't properly informed.
Some extra help is coming today. The province declaring for the second year in a row a provincial state of emergency.
The key priorities are the protection of public safety and property, and that's how these decisions are made.
It's the third time in 20 years a state of emergency is necessary in BC. The largest fire burning right now in the province is the Shovel Lake fire. Smoke blanketing Fort St. James, the fire bigger than 50,000 hectares. Melody Prince and her granddaughter Macy wishing there would be more updates online of what's happening in their hometown.
Everybody's on edge because we don't know what's going on, to be honest with you.
Province-wide, there are more than 18,000 people on evacuation alert. A lot of them are from the area near the Shovel Lake fire.
Going through the house in a little bit of a panic, I was like, this has to leave too.
One of those on evacuation alert is Heather Dirksen. She says it's been scary in Fraser Lake, looming across the water, multiple fires. Along with her personal items, the pregnant, soon-to-be mother with asthma is getting the car ready in case she has to leave.
It's been very nerve-wracking to see flames there and then flames there. It's nice to have some people now recognizing that we're going through some really hard stuff right now with all this around us.
Firefighters from Vancouver Island are now in the area, and the federal government has provided support that is also expected to be on the ground here soon.
Well, Richard, obviously everyone's hoping for the best, but what extra precautions are being taken to prepare at least for the worst?
I'm here, Chris, at Fort St. James, a National Historic Site. Some of these buildings here are older than British Columbia itself. And what they've done is, you can see they've set up sprinklers to run basically as long as they have to in order to ensure that they can keep these buildings moist and to ensure that they can do everything possible. And I think precautions like this are being taken not just here, but in so many places all around this area, Chris.
Let's hope they're not necessary, but good to be prepared just the same. Thanks very much, Richard. Well, check this out. As mentioned, the largest wildfire burning in BC is the Shovel Lake fire, estimated at more than 50,800 hectares. That's about 500 square kilometers. To give you a better idea of just how big that is, that would be equal to Vancouver, Burnaby, Richmond, New West, Port Moody, Port Coquitlam, and Coquitlam combined. We'll bring in Keith Baldry now for more on this state of emergency and what that declaration means exactly. Keith?
Yeah, Chris, it's basically invoked to allow the fire service and the provincial government to basically coordinate and use local resources as they see fit. But it does contain some sweeping powers, including, I'm just going to run through a checklist of them. It allows the fire service and the government to acquire any land or personal property they see fit to use to respond to an emergency. They can require any qualified person to render assistance to fight fires. That means basically using local firefighters and first responders if need be. They can control travel to any area of the province, including an outright ban. And finally, it can procure and fix prices for such things as food, clothing, fuel, equipment, and medical supplies. In fact, any items deemed essential in fighting these fires. Mike Farnworth, we caught up to him this morning, saying basically he does what the fire service requests. It's not necessarily his idea to invoke these powers, but he leaves it to the experts.
The decisions in terms of going to a provincial state of emergency are based on the advice of the BC Fire Service, the experts who actually fight the fires and know what's happening, and in many cases have more than 30+ years in fighting fires in this province. And it's on their advice that these decisions are made.
It does give the province some sweeping powers, though. How long do we expect the state of emergency to last?
Well, under the Act, it's going to be 14 days. This particular declaration will be in effect, and then it's going to be reviewed and possibly renewed. Last year, when, of course, there was a similar emergency declaration, that one lasted 10 weeks. I'm not saying it's going to last this long this time. It doesn't seem to be quite as bad a situation as last year, but I'd be surprised if it is not extended for at least a couple of weeks after the first 14 days expire. Chris?
We'll keep an eye on that. Thanks very much, Keith. And the reach of the smoke is extensive. You've seen it, and we'll have more on what you should and shouldn't do to protect your health from it a little later. But right now, meteorologist Christy Gordon has a look at how it's starting to shift. Christy?
Chris, despite what you can see behind me being so much thick smoke and what many residents are feeling in their throats still and tasting almost, we have actually gotten a little bit better today. The smoke has cleared slightly. Here's a look at the tower cam image from yesterday, just about this time in the evening. You can see how thick the smoke and haze is, and it's making it almost dark and you can't see across English Bay. This is the image right now, much brighter. You can see across to UBC. You can see the barges out there. Certainly still a fair amount of haze, but a bit of improvement, and we're expecting even further improvement again tomorrow. So when I come back, I'll show you how long that improvement will last and what it means for your weekend.
Some incredible images of the smoky blackout in BC. These images behind me, taken by Chuck and Susan Chin in Prince George, where day turned into night, and this time lapse of a drive from PG to Vanderhoof at 10 o'clock this morning looked more like midnight. It's the latest evidence of some extreme fire behavior in the northern interior. Thick, dark smoke blanketing communities from Fraser Lake to Prince George, and our Richard Zussman is in the thick of it. What an eerie morning there, Richard.
Yeah, Chris, and for so many here at the evacuation center, the morning started in that darkness. It's ending with people being told there are no more hotel rooms in Prince George and they'll have to go to Williams Lake. And the one thing that's remained constant all day long has been this smoke. Apocalyptic, eerie, scary, all words used to describe Prince George at 9:30 this morning.
Looks like late evening to me. Creepy.
I looked at the windows, I thought, okay, it's 4 in the morning, I got a few hours of sleep, and then my alarm went off and it pointed out that it was actually 7:30. I thought, okay, what's going on here? Is my vision going bad?
The smoke from wildfires burning around Prince George engulfed the city and blocked the sun. A reminder for Annie O'Brienek, who's in Prince George now, having evacuated from her home on the other side of Fraser Lake.
We're unsure what to do with all of our animals.
These pictures are from when she fled with her 7 children, her husband Joe staying back. And now authorities won't let a family friend, Mike Cawley, into the area to help protect their home.
They need help, they need supplies. And here we have an extra set of hands, Mike Cawley, and he's sitting there twiddling his thumbs.
Other evacuees are at the CN Centre in Prince George, waiting hours in this line for their food vouchers. Word of 2 homes being destroyed south of Burns Lake spreading here.
It's just scary knowing that you might not have a place to go home to.
Burns Lake Band helping people in that community that need a bed. With these fires now raging on for over a week, there's frustration.
Given the devastation that we're all suffering right now, it's really nice to see that our First Nations people are coming together to provide this support.
First Nations communities have been deeply affected themselves, from the Notley Wood End to the Styleton to the Nitai Bun, all displaced.
We need people. We need more help.
But the fear is, if help comes, it won't come soon enough. Richard Zussman, Global News, Prince George. And there's been some help announced, at least from the province. The Red Cross has been asking for donations. Today, Chris, the province announcing they will match all of those donations up to $20 million to help provide support for these and so many other people who have been chased from their homes.
Quickly returning to our top story now, the impact of the growing wildfires across BC, most notably the heavy smoke covering a number of communities in the northern interior. Our Richard Zussman joins us again from Prince George, where people are still trying to go about their daily lives despite the extreme conditions. And Richard, it looks dark there again.
Yeah, it is dark, and this, Chris, has been quite surreal. Right in the middle of the smoke, the BC Northern Exhibition started today. So people are going on rides, playing the games, trying to enjoy themselves. And this is just 100 meters away from the registration for the evacuation center. It's just one way people are trying to go about their normal lives. Take a look at these pictures from earlier today. People had an early morning Friday tea time, and then it went black. People still playing in the darkness at 9:30 in the morning. Because of that smoke cover, it got so dark here in Prince George, it just surreal that people stayed on the golf course.
Well, you can't see where the ball goes. You tee it off and it's gone into oblivion. So you can't tee off because you don't know where the ball is, you know. It's like you could see out there 200 yards and that's about it. So you'd be losing a lot of golf balls in the middle of the fairway maybe. Or as us golfers, don't usually hit it in the middle of the fairway all the time either. So that would be the problem, you know.